So I'm joined today by Alison Edgar. Alison, how you doing?
Hi Nick, very well, thank you.
Lovely to see you here this morning.
I know, face to face.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Listen, the world's a crazy place and kind of constant, who knows what the hell's going on. I suppose my starting place is, how is the business environment for you? How are we, and how are you feeling towards what's going on in the world?
So the business environment for me is really buoyant, I would say.
Okay.
Because if we look at what happened, yes, during COVID, we did a lot of virtual things, but a lot of organisations are coming back now.
Yeah.
And for the first time, maybe in a few years, they're having face-to-face events. And what they're looking for is people that are bringing a lot of energy and insights to their organisations. And yeah, it's been the best that it's ever been. Like.
Oh, really? And
yeah.
So from your perspective, and this I find really fascinating. You say that you want someone they want to bring energy and enthusiasm and everything to the event.
Yeah.
How deep are they going with the content, or is it about the fact they just want people to be in the room together?
No, I would say there's still sort of the old school stuff that they want to go through their financials and they want to go through their mission and their vision statement and things that they would have always have done. But I think what they want to do is they want something that has got actionable takeaways. So it's got to have an impact after the day of an event, ongoing. But I think a lot of they are looking for things that are just got higher energy and interaction. So they want people to interact with the teams rather than maybe the older style TEDx talks. And I'm doing another TEDx and I've done a TEDx, but that's quite educational and thought-provoking, whereas I think they're looking for the balance of thought-provoking, actionable takeaways and higher energy.
And how has that changed? How have you adjusted or changed or kind of grown, I suppose, over COVID to where we are now?
So I think what was really interesting that my speaking side of the business, because I had a training company, so from the training perspective, you always had to be high energy anyway, always had to be interactive. So I had those skills anyway. But really my speaking business was just about to take off before COVID. So like literally what's happened since then, because we're now working with some of the Fortune 500 companies and big organisations, I think they are just looking for a new style of speaker.
Okay. And tell me, kind of, you have a very successful training company. How would you describe the difference between a trainer and a speaker?
So I think obviously there's longevity in the time. If you're training, you're doing 8 hours with people and you've got to make sure that there's a lot of not just interaction, but workshop activities. So that's sort of the background that I come from. Whereas I think if you're looking at a keynote speaker or an event speaker or a motivational speaker, you've only really got an hour to make that impact. So it's a more sort of condensed version of what I did as a trainer, but really getting it's the impactful, actionable takeaways. So whereas a trainer, you can spend 4 hours on one topic, you have got to really get in quickly to get the point across, but also, again, so one of my topics is around how to communicate with different types of people. And what I find is one of the biggest things are companies are saying their departments are siloing. And I do think that is a result of, again, not working as closely together face-to-face and working from home. And sometimes the trust disappears, which affects the team. So I do this thing called the juggling method, or Alison Edgar's big balls. So I talk about basketballs, tennis balls and ping pong balls. And if you look at part of the reason departments silo, so say, for example, the marketing department are running a campaign and they need a purchase order. Well, that's their basketball because they can't do anything without the purchase order. But actually procurement might be doing other things and that's their ping pong ball. And it's the disparity of the balls that breaks the communication. So when they actually start to talk about Alison Edgar's big balls, the basketballs, tennis balls, ping pong balls, then it makes a difference. And we did some work with Moe Hennessy, Louis Vuitton.
Yes.
And it was around their Fitch department. So again, finance and IT and
people that Fitch, but
but it would be people that you would think, oh, I don't know if they're going to understand it, but is that a wee bit too simple? But that's the difference, that if you can get that across in a keynote and give them a tool to use, that's what I think has changed.
So for you, and in fact, so when you're on a briefing call to a client, like when you moved into the speaking world, and you're on that briefing call to the client.
Yeah.
What's your mindset different from when you were training, when you're listening to the client telling you kind of what they're looking for from you in that sense?
Well, I think one of the things I've got, Nick, don't forget that I come from the world of sales.
Yes,
so
yeah, 100%.
when it comes to working with clients, a lot of the time I know the secret of how to close sales is not to actually talk too much, but really find out what are their challenges, what are they really struggling with. And that's where a lot of the time as a speaker, it's reverse engineering the content to create, even sometimes we create bespoke content, like brand new content, to fill the gap so that we can take the existing content that we've got and actually the new content. Whereas I think with training, because it's a longer, it's a longer day or a longer period of time, that you're more or less creating what you want to tell them. Whereas I think the difference between speaking now is the reverse engineer to get those points in.
And when you're kind of, in terms of the audience, and just kind of, what are you looking for different for? So I'm fascinated by the interaction. As a keynote speaker, what are you looking for in terms of receptiveness? I don't know for the audience.
And I think this is where, if you look, attention spans are a lot shorter now. I think, again, and we look, there's a lot of different generations in an audience who have got shorter attention spans, and that's not a criticism, that's just life and how things happen. So again, for me, I'll give an example. Like one of the things that I talk about is metathesiophobia. So loads of people don't know what that is. So what I'll do is, okay, who in the audience can tell me what metathesiophobia is? And that's where, again, I'll bring prizes, I'll bring the mugs, I'll bring the books, I'll bring, things that encourage people to join in and
do you find that it doesn't matter what generation it is, it's kind of everyone likes to get involved?
Yeah, people like to win prizes.
Yeah, they do. We're all so shallow. I'm surprised
I think the other thing you've got is, as a disc practitioner, so obviously I do things around the behavioural, the introverts and the extroverts. A lot of the time you're not going to get an introvert going, "Oh, me, pick me, pick me." So again, like knowing what I know, and again, that's another part of the stuff that I teach. I know how to interact with different types of behaviours. So what will work with some people will not work with others. So I think, if you look at that interaction, and I think the other thing that has changed for me is people want some sort of table. Again, depending on the size of the event, they quite like to get the tables to work together, which is more of a training thing. But I think a lot of organisations don't really know the difference between trainer or a speaker, or I think the lines have become a wee bit more grey as to what the customers want. So like now, like say for example, it is around metathesiophobia, which by the way, Nick, is the fear of change. So again, like people don't know what that is. And if we look, for example, around like the time management side, the communication, the basketballs, tennis balls, ping pong balls, if you're actually putting groups of departments that have siloed, that maybe they're not communicating particularly well, it really opens up difficult conversations and gets people to think through the eyes of someone else. And that's where I think that communication makes a difference.
Can I ask, kind of, in your role as the speaker, how much influence do you want over the layout of the room and like kind of how you're going to run that session? Or do you feel you should always just be reacting to what the client,
I think so again, you know this yourself. So the clients maybe book one event a year. Maybe two, maybe three, whatever. Like I'm now speaking at 2 or 3 events a week or 4 a month. So actually the insights that we've got really help them. And I've got one that I'm working on at the moment, and that's the first one they've done for 4 years. And even looking at the timings of the session and where I would fit in and where, actually my insights from working with other organisations is really a great piece of insights for them.
I think it's really interesting what you say about kind of the first one we've done for 4 years. It's like, do you feel they're more open now? Because it has been a long time since they've done it. So maybe the event organiser who's just used to churning stuff out, actually, they're reintroducing themselves.
Yeah, and people have changed roles. So, 4 years have gone past, they've not had an event. Actually, the teams have changed. And you've got other people in the organisation who have maybe never booked a speaker or never run an event. So they're really glad of that help. And how does the speaker market work, and how can we take this away, and what can we do differently? Because they want change. Like ultimately, like and again, I think this is there's been a change in this. Like previously, when companies were cash rich, it was all part of the jolly, and oh, let's bring in a speaker that's got a big name, and we'll all get the selfies afterwards. Now people want a better ROI. They want to have something that the day after, or the week after, or the month after, that the speaker's giving them something that they can actually do to change the organisation for the better.
I love that. Listen, let me take you slightly to a different topic, but kind of, you've been very open about your dyslexia and your journey through the whole thing. Tell me a bit about kind of why you decided to be open about it, and also how it benefits you when you're speaking and relating to your audiences.
So I never really realised it was a thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
so I think because I was late diagnosed, so I knew that, and when I do my personal talking, the personal story, this is the bit that I think inspires people, because it's not just educating, it's inspiring them. So I left school at 16 with no qualifications. I loved the people side of school,
yes,
but I couldn't work out why I couldn't remember things, why I couldn't remember details, no matter how hard I tried. And as like later on in life, I think I was 28 when I was diagnosed, but I never really wanted to ever set up my own business. So I think this is the difference between maybe me and other speakers, that at the job that I worked in, was in sales. So people don't really care as long as you bring the figures through, do you know what I mean? And because I can think differently, like I'm really quirky about how I do things, or different solutions, I found coping strategies around it. And then I think that, I was 46 when I set up the business, the training company originally. And this is why, again, I'm passionate about change, because I was in a room with the CEO and he said that Google thing will never catch on. So that's why I'm so passionate about why organisations should change.
Yeah.
And I think where I fit in is, I talk a lot about intrapreneurship. So like Tony Fadell he's my favourite example, because he created the iPod, which went on to be the iPhone. And again, I think it's that out-the-box innovative thinking sits in organisations. And sometimes we're scared, like as dyslexic or neurodiverse, we're scared to speak up because people think, oh, they can't read properly, they can't write properly, they must be really thick. And you spend your life thinking that you are thick. And then when I wrote the first book, that was petrifying. First of all, I didn't think I could write a book. And it was really hard. And then you go through the fear when you do come out of, as being something different. And it was like, right, okay, I've written this book. What happens if nobody buys it? And I think, well, that you've just got to suck that up, haven't you? It's like, what happens if they buy it and they think it's rubbish? And that would put a lot of people off, again, coming out from like showing their differences and their vulnerabilities. But the book went on to be an Amazon #1 around the world. But it was a W.H. Smith top 10 business book, so I kept getting selfies. Here we go. And then The Independent voted it one of the top business books written by a woman. It's been translated into Danish. They use it as a framework for the apprenticeships, for all sales apprenticeships in Ireland. So I think that's the thing that gives me strength and courage to use it as a superpower. Is the impact it's made. And that's like, I would urge anybody that, has got something that they think is holding them back, from all aspects of diversity and inclusion, like be bold, be brave, because actually you don't know the impact that you're going to make for other people.
And can I ask, kind of the last 5 years, again, not because everything has happened, but the last 5 years has been a period of change, but also kind of neurodiversity has come to the forefront of everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Is society doing better, or is it all lip service to it?
No, I think they are. I think I was talking to somebody at EY, and we were talking about, again, people contact me via my social media, nothing to do with speaking or work, but I think they think I'm relatable and approachable, so they'll send me a message, I do my best. I do my best. So, and he said, like, what can I do? I'm really scared. I'm obviously working for one of the biggest accountancy firms, and this is where I think there has been change, like even from all sides of diversity, but having pronouns on there, like having a paragraph underneath your signature. I'm actually dyslexia, so if there's anything wrong with the grammar or the spelling, please don't judge me on this. I've got other strengths
Yeah.
that compensate for this. So I think that, you look at organisations, they're now actively, specifically the larger ones, actively recruiting neurodiverse people.
I was going to ask that kind of, you're a business leader, right? So business leader, like the flip side, is there more that leaders could do to encourage people to be proud of their superpower?
Yeah, and I think look at people's strengths. I mean, the great thing now is that there's great tools. So for me, on my Mac, I highlight the text and it comes back and it reads back in Scottish. It's called Fiona.
It comes back in Scottish?
Fiona, well, you can set it to be whatever you want. And I'm thinking, again, I want something that sounds like me. So Fiona reads back my text so that it says like what I want it to say. And again, I just think there are tools out there, and obviously I'm not an expert in AI, but I do love ChatGPT because a lot of that stuff as a neurodiverse person, it would take me hours or days to get that quality of writing out, and ChatGPT does it in like about a minute and a half. Not even that, it's like seconds. So a lot of people are scared of that, but that's what I think is a real positive to help people with neurodiversity.
Brilliant. Alison, listen, on that note, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you, Nick.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.